Live from the New Life Center studios in Coconut Creek, Florida, and Phoenix, Arizona, it's Nothing Worthwhile, giving you the latest news in pop culture, sports, entertainment, and professional wrestling. You know, all the crap you don't care about. Here's Evan Moody and Andrew Gruthius.
After these messages.
You guys suck!
Hey, Bri.
Yeah?
How come you have a gun?
I don't know.
What do you mean you don't know? What about all that liberal crap you're always spewing about stricter gun regulations? You even cried after Columbine.
Because that was a national tragedy.
Oh, it's kind of a regional tragedy.
Whatever.
It's just weird, you know? I mean, you're the last person anybody would expect to have a gun.
Well, that's why I keep it here, where it's safe.
That doesn't make any sense. Why have it if you're not going to use it? Is it like a sexual thing?
No.
Oh, that's a relief. I hate the idea of you getting your thrills pressing a gun up against your crotch. Ugh, just picturing it gives me the willies.
You know, I really don't want to talk about this with you, Stewie.
Okay, I respect that.
Thank you.
Are you sure it's not a sexual thing?
I'm sure.
Oh, good, because that'd be strange if you had fantasies about pressing a gun up against your crotch and feeling your heartbeat through your balls. Please tell me why you have it.
I said I don't want to talk about it.
But I want to know. Just tell me, come on.
No.
Come on, please.
I keep it in case I ever want to commit suicide, okay?
Wow. Oh my God, you're serious. But why, Brian?
You wouldn't understand, you're just a kid.
Well, I could try.
I don't know. Sometimes it's all too much.
What is?
Life, everything. Just having the gun here, knowing there's a way out, it helps.
Yes, but a gun, it's so messy. What about pills? Even hanging yourself is better. At least then you might grow an inch or two while you're hanging there. Of course, when they find you, you might have those Ileana Douglas eyes. So, why the gun?
It just seemed the quickest way, I guess.
I suppose. But I don't quite understand why you're so unhappy.
Yesterday, when you said, I don't live with purpose, you were right. I don't. What purpose does my life have?
I don't like when you talk like this.
Oh, it's true, Stewie. Dogs are supposed to be able to instinctively live with purpose, not even to have to think about it, just born like that. But I wasn't. You know, I've tried to find meaning in my life, and I just can't.
And that bottle of scotch?
I was saving it for my last drink.
Whoa, heavy.
And, you know, I'm not talking about purpose in the shallow, Rick Warren, over-the-counter self-help variety, because that's just delusion. That's not real. I mean, is there ever a time when we're truly in the present moment and not looking toward the past or the future? I mean, right there, in the moment.
I get that way when I watch Handy Manny. So, is that why we came here? Were you going to end it?
No, I was just putting money in my Christmas club.
God, I have to get one of those. You know, last year, I only had $30 saved when the holidays came around. I was so embarrassed. I think I gave Meg tape.
Oh, you're the only person I've ever told this to. Aren't you going to say anything?
I don't know what to say. Wanting to kill yourself. Well, I think that's pretty selfish of you.
How is that selfish?
What would I do if you weren't here? You're the only one who makes my life bearable.
I thought you said I was the best of a bad situation.
I was just trying to hurt you because you hurt me. But the truth is, you're my only friend, Brian. If I didn't have you, I'd be lost.
You'd be okay.
No, I wouldn't. I don't really care for anybody else, just you. You're the only one I like.
Well, thanks.
I like you a lot. I guess you could say I really like you. I would even dare to go a little further, perhaps. I care a great deal about you. A very great deal. Maybe even deeper than that. I love you. I mean, not in like a, hey, let's have an underpants party or whatever grown-ups do when they're in love. But I mean, I love you as one loves another person whom one simply cannot do without.
Well, I love you too, Stewie.
You give my life purpose. And maybe that's enough. Because that's just about the greatest gift one friend can give another.
Thank you.
Hey.
What?
Will you read to me?
Sure.
Wait. I want to get all snuggled in. Okay, go.
Chapter 1. I am born. Whether I shall turn out to be the hero of my own life, or whether that station shall be held by anybody else, these pages must show. To begin my life with the beginning of my life, I record that I was born on a Friday at 12 o'clock at night.
It's going to be great.
Napkins right here.
I feel like Howard Stern's going to be great. Sheila's going to cry. It's the ratings.
She might. We might. I might.
I might too.
All right.
Excited.
We good? Are we on?
We are on.
I missed it. All right. Sorry, guys. Welcome to Nothing Worthwhile.
You missed nothing.
Welcome to Nothing. Well, speaking of Nothing Worthwhile, episode number 126. 126 on today's show. She's all about that life. Our third female co-host ever on this great podcast. And she is my sister-in-law. Let's welcome Sheila Gonzalez to the show. Sheila,
Hi,
please tell our audience a little bit about yourself.
Hi, everybody. My name is Sheila. I am Evan's sister-in-law, officially now for what? A month and a half? 2 months?
Yeah, something like that.
I think so. But the brother sister.
When you're such wedded bliss, time just flows. It's timeless, isn't it?
I can. I've kind of lived it by proxy for a couple days.
Yes, you did. You and Sheila were huge parts of it. So
I heard, the noises that, anyway.
I know. I was running around rapping.
I think how heat rises. I think sound goes down. And I was on the first floor, and they were on the second floor.
No, stop. She wasn't even.
Good.
No, we're literally 50 years old, and she had to do the night before. I can't see her. I felt like I was almost Muslim. Like she had a veil over her face. I couldn't see her.
I was Evan's night before bachelor party entertainment. I had to, swing on a pole and do all the things that those people do.
It was very exciting. All right, Sheila, do me a favor. Sheila, finish introducing yourself. So
I'm sure Evan learned quickly in our family that we are very traditional. So she wasn't going to settle for anything less than a traditional wedding. She wanted to make sure to hit all the marks, something blue, something old, something new, all of that good stuff. And didn't you guys go celibate for a year?
What about Lenny Kravitz?
I'm just kidding. But yeah, at least, for the most part, it was traditional other than that aspect. But it was a great wedding. But yeah, no, I'm Sheila Gonzalez. I've been around for almost 39 years now. Incredibly single, just so you guys know. Anybody out there? No kids, too. I actually am considered like a unicorn, people say. But you'll understand why I'm not married, nor have I ever been married or have kids here in the podcast. It'll all come together full circle. But just marketer by day, tattoo artist by night, having fun. Great auntie. I think I'm the favorite. Other than that, I think that's pretty much my whole profile.
You are an amazing auntie, that's for sure. Very lucky to have you as a sister-in-law. All right, let's bring him in. The final boss, Andrew Gruthius. Gru, how the hell are you, my friend?
Well, I'm going to be coming full circle today, too. And as a matter of fact, I just did. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. So hi, how you doing? Nice to see you. Everything is fine. Sheila, welcome. Nice to see you again. We had a great time in Arizona for the wedding, as we just talked about. Yeah, everything's good down here. Summer is upon us, and no one could be more ready for it than I am. It's beautiful out. So that's why I'm in here on a Sunday afternoon. It's great.
What is the weather like out in sunny South Florida?
Like 130, 140 around there. No, it's like high 90s. And
similar
dry,
here in Arizona.
But dry. It's like it's not, terrible out. It's not difficult to be out. So weather's good.
That's what they say about Arizona. It's a dry heat, but I still say 114 is still 114.
That is true. Like, there is a big difference between. There might not be a big difference between 67 and 70, but 198 and 114, absolutely.
When you start seeing those heat waves come off the road, it's pretty effing hot. So, all right, Guru, listen, before we sit down and get to really know Sheila, it's 6 things we're talking about this week. It's nothing worthwhile, the week that was.
UU Life Center presents Nothing Worthwhile, the week that was.
Yes, the week that was is brought to you by UU Life Center. Begin a new you. Check out all of their medical weight loss programs at www.newulifecenters.com. That's NUYOU. lifecenters.com, or give them a call at 602-274-0068. Tell them that Moody, Gru, and Sheila sent you and receive a big 15% off your first service. Sheila is part of the extended New Life Center team. We want to thank Marie Moody, Erica, Desiree, Brian, Shelby, Dr. Nabla, and the rest of the New You team. Thank you to New You Life Center. All right, guys. So this actually changed, but on Monday, we know that Mike Tyson had a scary medical issue. He had an ulcer flare-up on the plane, and there was some talk about his fight being postponed with Jake Paul. Both Tyson and both Jake Paul went on X roughly 48 hours after the emergency medical personnel was forced onto the flight after landing, and both said the fight is still on, but now apparently, as of yesterday, the flight has been postponed. Guys, or Guru, any interest in Tyson, Jake Paul?
Well, yeah, we've talked about it before. It was an article. It was one of our items before. I'm definitely interested because I am a Mike Tyson follower in a way. No, I wouldn't say I'm a fan, but I'm fascinated by the guy, and I'm interested in this fight. I absolutely can understand this kind of medical thing. I mean, Tyson is in his 60s now.
No, 57.
57, stuff happens out of nowhere for reasons that nobody knows about, once you start getting up there. So, yeah, I mean, definitely understandable. And, I hope the fight happens because that would mean that Tyson is healthy. Because I wouldn't want it to happen if he wasn't. So, but yeah, I'm glad they did the right thing and postponed.
Yeah, like when I heard about this, I was like, they got to postpone the fight. Ulcer? Tyson's 57, and ultimately they did.
Yeah, that's what happened to Springsteen. That's why he postponed the tour. He had an ulcer. So,
how long did he postpone the tour for?
A while.
Months. 5, 6 months. So
really?
Yeah. So that, our people are getting older. They're showing their vulnerability. It's tough to watch sometimes.
Sheila, you familiar with the Paul boys, Jake and Logan Paul? Any thoughts on those guys?
And no, not at all. But I'm just wondering about the medical condition more than anything. I know that minimal details would want to be given at this time, but you would think that at the very least, that there would be some sort of date or something like that as far as postponement is concerned, because ulcers are pretty common. Yeah, sure, he's 57, but people usually know treatment, condition, and how long they may be suffering. So,
yeah, I think this one they're going to probably play it a little bit more on the safe side due to Mike's age. Gru, you think this is a money grab on Mike's side? Do you think Mike needs the dough?
Probably. He's never. I don't think he's ever been shy about his overspending. And
yeah.
So I think absolutely it's all about money, and that's perfectly fine. People like him, in my mind, from every perspective, have earned the right to I forget the word I'm thinking of, but to exploit whatever fame
themselves.
and fortune. Exploit their talents that have been their business. So at his point, he's been through enough, from childhood through prison, through being at the top of the world to the bottom. So he's earned all this. So absolutely.
Last question. Mike's 57. Jake Paul's 27. Jake Paul has a 7-1 record in the sort of quasi-professional celebrity boxing fights. Jake has looked impressive in a lot of his fights. Knockout power. Our nephew Anthony says he's a legit boxer. What do you think? Mike have a shot? Jake's going to win? Give us a thought on an early prediction.
I think that if it's a real fight, Jake Paul's going to win by knockout or TKO or towel. I think that's going to. I think he is just too different. But if the quote unquote fix is in, I think the fix will be they go the distance and Paul wins by decision. That's what I think. But I hope it's real, but I think that's what I think.
Yeah, I think it'll be real. I tend to agree with your prediction. I just think the age is going to be a bit much, though. Mike looks to be in great shape at 57. All right, guys, let's move on.
Can I tell you that this is what I think? I think we're going to know right away within the first 2 seconds on how Jake actually handles Tyson, whether he's going to go all in with all of his young boy energy or if he's going to dance around a little bit. So depending on that, I feel we can predict what may happen.
Here's the thing. Mike's the kind of guy, even at 57, he's going to go out on his sword. And so I kind of agree with Gru. I think it could end, dare I say, badly. But, I could see Mike getting just knocked out, going to sleep cold by Jake Paul.
But at the same time,
because Mike's the kind of guy, he's fearless, and he'll go out. And he doesn't care millions, his health. He'll go out on his sword. So I could see that. I'm not really a boxing expert, but I have watched a couple of Jake's fights. And I did watch on YouTube, Mike fought Roy Jones Jr. in this 50-year-old, boxer. And I thought Mike beat Roy Jones Jr. They got a split decision draw. So I thought it was I thought Mike won the fight, actually.
But to steal something from Jake's brother Logan, if Mike can land one of his, hooks on anybody. Yeah. And so remember, the difference between Roy Jones and Jake Paul is that Roy Jones was also a boxer. So, it's going to be interesting to see how the styles clash. Remember, Conor McGregor could not beat Floyd Mayweather. I really thought McGregor would beat him.
However, if you want to go down that road, Conor hurt Floyd.
Yes, he did.
I still got to give Conor a lot of props for taking a fight in which he's limited. He can only box. He's obviously not allowed to use his full range. Ironically enough, Sheila and I and the family, we went out and watched a UFC 302 last night at our favorite joint, cold beer and cheeseburgers.
Thing? Is this a boxing match, or can Jake Paul do what he wants?
No, this is a boxing match, and Jake Paul has only fought exclusively as a boxer. And Conor, the next big UFC fight will be Conor is returning some 2 years after his broken foot against Poirier. He's fighting Michael Chandler, but we will talk about that another time. Listen, guys, this was in the news, and we've known that, at least Gru and I are big Howard Stern fans, but indeed pigs have flown. Kathy Lee Gifford revealed how she ended her 30-year feud with Howard Stern. She's promoting her new book, I Want to Matter. Your life is too short and too precious to waste. Kathy Lee said it was a surprise when she received the voicemail from the disc jockey. Once I listened to it, I said to my kids at the table, well, pigs have now officially flown. Gru, we know, Sheila, that Gifford and Stern's feud began back in 1995 after she sang the national anthem at the Super Bowl that year. Her husband was NFL player Frank Gifford, who died in 2015 at the age of 84. You know what? I don't need to go through the whole thing. She does say really quick that Howard called her and said, "Will you forgive me, Kathy, please? I'm doing hard work on my life. I know I hurt you. I'm so sorry. I need you. I need to ask. Hold on, let me finish, because it gets perhaps better or worse. I need to ask you to forgive me." Gifford went on, interestingly, to describe Stern as, quote, "a very odd duck." But then I saw him a couple of times over at Sirius, and we were fine, she explained. Ladies and gents, Howard apologizes to another former rival. Any thoughts?
So, is it confirmed, number one?
Yes. Yeah, it's confirmed.
Oh, wow. Yeah. It's confirmed. Yeah. And Kathy Lee decided to share his vulnerable words, his private vulnerable words, to the public.
Yeah. Yes, she did.
No, I hate her even more. How dare she?
Well, I think you know, because I don't know if Sheila. I mean, obviously Howard Stern in the '90s was this shock jock. He sort of has evolved now in 2024 into a woke, politically correct sort of guy. Really, the antithesis of what he was some 30 years ago. And see, like, while on the surface, there's nothing wrong with apologizing, because I'm sure he was kind of rude and nasty and edgy, but that was his gig back then. But I think I'll read Gru's comments. To guys like Gru and I, it's kind of a sad state of affairs as to what Howard has become. Though I can't bash him for apologizing, but he's really sort of forsaken everything in the 80s and 90s and early 2000s that he's become. And so I'll shut up and I'll throw it to Gru. What do you think?
Well, you got to remember that when this happened, this is a while ago. So this was before everything, started going quote unquote woke. So my question to you is, do you think this was like the beginning of the end of the Howard? Is this like the first big thing that he did, sort of publicly, that headed him in the direction that you described? What happened before this?
I think, I've always said I always have a jump the shark moment, but if you're talking about apologizing, I think the first big one was Rosie O'Donnell, and he had Rosie on the show, and then she got a job at Sirius, and she had her own show, and Howard was on, and so I think that was the first time I remember Howard, openly apologizing to her. Go ahead.
No, keep going. Oh, well,
no, I think the apology to Kathy Lee was after, timeline wise,
yes.
Rosie, and then I think he made amends with Ellen DeGeneres, and he became very pro gay rights, and that started his evolving. I think this was even before Marcy Turk came on board.
I think it was well before that. And I think I put the Rosie O'Donnell thing. That's like two people on the same side having an argument. That's like you and me, because they're from because Rosie was pretty irreverent, before she got the TV show, but she was a foul mouthed stand up. She was a roaster. So that they're on the same side. Kathy Lee is, hierarchy as far as, I guess, morality, quote unquote.
Was Kathy Lee a symbol of everything that we thought was wrong with television back in the 90s?
Guys like you and me, yes.
Yeah, Happy Talk, the mug of coffee, Teflon.
Yep.
Promoted. It's not necessarily that she was very religious, because you don't see a lot of mainstream people, especially now, that are very religious on mainstream television. But it was sort of like this holier than thou attitude,
pretentious,
and
the way she talked about her kids and that was nobody else was doing that. So I guess you could call her an innovator on that, but it was still gosh, enough about your fucking kids. Like, who cares?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, she always had her.
She was the enemy.
Yeah, for me,
she was the enemy.
Yeah, for me, that definitely explains why she would put, Howard's words out there on blast like that, to glorify herself and the fact that, he was bowing down to her in a way, and that's the way that I see it. But at the end of the day with Howard, and it's so funny that you said that, Gru, it's when you talked about comedians and how, Rosie O'Donnell was, I was thinking about comedians and how they don't really apologize for anything that they really say because it's just funny. It's a joke. It's just to entertain and to laugh. With Howard, I feel like he's almost teaching, and I love him, but a bad lesson in regard to no regrets. You shouldn't regret really anything in your life, especially if you've made, sorts of impacts. Sure, you can apologize, and if you feel you've turned another leaf here and there with people that you may have affected their livelihood, lifestyle, or peace, but to completely do this whole turnaround and become something that he isn't anymore. It is pretty shocking because it's like, did we waste our time?
You're hitting it right on the head.
She just summed the entire everything you and I have been trying to figure out for 10 years. She just summed up in 2 minutes.
I've always said to Gru, in the 90s when I was glued to the radio, in the 80s, I used to wake up, in college, I'd wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning just to listen. There's no college kid that wakes up at 6 o'clock in the morning. And then,
getting home at 6 o'clock in the morning.
Right. All those wonderful moments you listen to the radio, was that really the guy, or did he, was it some kind of plan all along? And the thing is, that's, I think, the part that bothers me the most is he's really basically said all that stuff, which not all of it was just tearing people down. Some of it was amazing, innovative radio, and he wrote amazing books. And he's taken everything back. I hate the book. And so it's so disappointing. I think on the surface, Gru, like one apology or two apologies, I could live with that. Everybody evolves a little bit, but he's just gone completely the other way, and it's just like it's really disenfranchised his entire hardcore fan base. And again, as I said to you, when my mom said, "Oh, I watched Howard on Anderson Cooper," I was like, "I'm done."
Over.
Yeah.
Well, I saw Private Parts with my parents, and my mom loved it. I was like, "All right, that's not good." And that was in '97. But one thing I'm going to sort of try to give Howard just a tiny little easy benefit of doubt. We're getting the Kathy Lee perspective. I'm hoping the conversation went something more like this. Listen, Kathy, we had great radio. It was incredible, and I'm sorry if it hurt you in any way, but you know what? It gave the fans. It made me who I am, and if you were hurt by that, I sincerely apologize. I can't walk it back, and I wouldn't walk it back because it was the best. That's what I'm hoping.
Yeah,
but
I doubt it.
I doubt it too. But I would love to think that. Because what Sheila said is so right on the money. It's like apologizing for what made you what you are. Like, huh?
Yeah.
Like, is it a fraud? Was nothing real? So if you're going to tell me that Howard Stern is like a fictional television show or a fictional radio drama that we've been listening to and taking as fact all these years, I'm going to look at you and say, "Fuck you." That's not what I want to hear from you. If that's Howard saying it, I'm going to be like, that's bullshit.
He's the king of understatement, folks.
But do you agree with that?
I'm joking. I do. Listen, I've been on this podcast. I've talked ad infinitum about how disappointed. I'm disappointed. I'm almost sad because there was no bigger Stern fan than myself in the 90s. I bought every book. I woke up early. Every memorabilia, if I saw every rare piece of memorabilia that I could get my hands on, and I was such a fan. It's so excited for Sirius. And it's just, I've gotten rid of Sirius.
That's like you apologizing to me for hitting me with the baseball. And me apologizing to you for running after you with the bat. I don't apologize for that. That was the right thing to do. It was the right thing to do for me to chase you down with that thing and try to knock your head off. And if I hadn't have done that, we would not have that story to tell, which is part of the foundation of our relationship, which is what we're doing here today. So don't tell me that wasn't real.
The way that I see it, it's like Family Guy turning into Barney.
Exactly, and
I look back at all the Family Guy episodes, and sure, some of the stuff was now you look at it and you're like, I can't believe we got away with saying that, like the Bruce Jenner episode and stuff like that. But it was funny, you could laugh because that's what was accepted back then. That's what made us laugh and giggle and entertain us back then a little. Unfortunately, we weren't aware of the suppressed gay population or the people that were going through sexuality issues. But at the end of the day, what was then, what's now is now. And if Family Guy ever turned into a show like Bob the Builder or Barney, I would just be so upset because, again, I grew up on Family Guy. I grew up on The Simpsons, on the Family Guy, and it's made my humor and my sense of humor what it is today. And now I'm a little more politically correct, of course, but I didn't turn a whole leaf like Howard did. So extremely disappointing.
Hopefully you'll enjoy this podcast because we can be a little politically incorrect from time to time, Sheila.
Okay, great. Refreshing.
Good.
Boing.
All right, listen, guys. Sony, Gru, you might be interested. Oh, Sheila might be as well. Sony Music may be looking to pay a king's ransom to acquire the rights to Queen's music catalog. The entertainment giant is in talks to pay a whopping $1 billion. That's with a B for the British rocker's songbook, which includes hits like Bohemian Rhapsody and We Will Rock You, in one of the biggest deals ever, Bloomberg reported last Wednesday. Sony is reportedly teaming up with another unnamed investor on the staggering offer, which would also cover merchandising and other business opportunities. The company paid $600 million to acquire just half of Michael Jackson's music catalog in February. Guys, Bob Dylan sold his catalog to Sony in 2022 in a deal estimated to be worth around $200 million. Actually, sounds kind of low given the money that they're throwing around here. Original bandmates Brian May, Roger Taylor, John Deacon, and Freddie Mercury's estate are equal shareholders in Queen Productions Limited, which produces a revenue stream of about $52 million a year. This is what was quoted for September 2022. The growth of paid streaming services like Spotify combined with low interest rates have contributed to the soaring value of music catalogs in the last decade. And then they talk about some artists, though, have not really cashed in, like Pink Floyd. And I wrote, because Roger Waters is a notorious Jew hater. I added that, guys. Gru and Sheila, Queen's massive music catalog for a cool $1 billion. Any thoughts?
Sure. That's fair market price. $1 billion. What the money they could print from We Will Rock You, We Are the Champions, of Bohemian Rhapsody alone. Queen is dare I say bigger in Freddie Mercury's death than they were in his life. I think there's some truth to that. Absolutely. Yeah, they are you still hear their music all over the place. And the popularity seems to be growing for some reason. These guys probably I'm a Queen fan, so I know these guys are astute businessmen, Roger Taylor and Brian May and John Deacon, even though Deacon's not really a part of the music part of it anymore, but he is part of the business part of it. They probably said, all right, we'll sell it for this price. If it's for a penny less, we don't need the money. But if you want to pay $1 billion, we'll take $1 billion. But that's that, and they probably didn't even think they would hit that, but they hit it. So I was like, all right, here you go. And because they certainly don't need it, they are all beyond monumentally wealthy. So,
can I ask you a quick question? Yeah. Does John Deacon, when they play those dates with Adam Lambert and that kind of thing, does he not play anymore, or does he still play live?
I think his last public concert was the Freddie Mercury tribute concert. He just retired. They talk about it. They talk about it. They say that they're still friends. They love him. They don't really speak to him much. He lives a very private life. There have been a couple pictures of him. He really looks like an old man. But he just chose to walk away from the spotlight. That's all I know about that. But yeah, $1 billion. Once, I guess, who really did it first, big time? Was it McCartney? Was he the first one who was like made headlines with like selling the catalog, or the Beatles, or the
I think because I remember reading about this when I think didn't Michael Jackson buy the Beatles catalog?
Yeah,
and then McCartney wanted to buy it from him, and Michael refused or was giving him a hard time.
All right, so once those hundreds of millions...
I think we started hearing about this in the early 2000s, about artists selling the rights to their music catalog.
And then Springsteen sells his for $500 million, and as time goes on, the price does not go down. And Queen, I would argue that Queen's catalog is probably worth more on a global scale than Bruce Springsteen's. So,
wow.
You don't agree with me?
Well, when you add global scale, there might be some truth to it. I mean, when you just off the top of my head, I'm still thinking Bruce creatively is still active. He's putting out new music, but on a global scale, and them, being based, in Europe. You could listen. I don't know. You could make a case that Queen on a global scale is perhaps more popular than Bruce. I don't know. You're talking
That's not really what I meant. I meant just the catalog, because that's what they're buying. They're buying the catalog. So what they've
understood. But there's still got to be a need, and I mean the fan base. The desire for the music is what's going to drive the
think
price.
Think about here. You're just a quick thing. You're a company. You want to use a part of Bohemian Rhapsody in a commercial. It will make your commercial popular, and it will boom your product. You got to pay me $10 million just to use that little snippet of Bohemian Rhapsody. Okay? Queen has a dozen songs like that.
Okay.
Bruce
agreed.
probably doesn't have as many like that. That, to me, is where the money is, where they can use the music. That's
commercials?
Where commercials or in movies or, jukebox, like radio play. Bruce's music is a little bit different. Billy Joel, I think, would get $1 billion. I think I'm not saying Billy Joel's more popular than Bruce Springsteen. I'm saying the catalog and what it can be used for is probably worth more. That's what I mean.
Is Billy the last big artist? I mean, is that? I mean, I'm sure there are others, but Billy's always been questioned about selling the rights to his catalog, and his answer has been always, "These are my babies." Although, if you're willing to throw me a bill, I'll consider it strongly.
I can't really think of. Everybody else seems to have bit the dust on this. He seems to be a big holdout. But he'll eventually do it. There's no reason not to. Seriously, they're my babies. Then make more of them. Damn it.
No. His thought. Well, the thing is, once an artist, I'm assuming, sells the rights to their catalog, they lose control or only have limited control over the placement of their music. So if Queen doesn't want every song to be in some hokey ad, again, whether that's right or wrong, they lose that control. I mean, whoever has the rights to the catalog can place it wherever they find it desirable.
I'm guessing there are provisions in the contracts. It's like, maybe the artist still has final approval, but but there's much more freedom. I don't know. Every contract is probably different, and the language probably spells it out.
Yeah. With the way that I see it, Sony plans on being around forever. So why not pay $1 billion for rights to songs that are probably also going to be around forever? Rock really never dies. That's why you see like Miley Cyrus and everybody else moving over to kind of like sounding.
You are absolutely right, by the way. You are so right on that point.
They're trying to, prolong the longevity of their career at the end of the day.
Absolutely.
And the way that I see it, if you crunch the numbers well enough, Billy Joel or Queen, and you see that throughout your lifetime, and maybe your kids and your grandkids to your grandkids, then their grandkids. $1 billion is probably what you'll end up making, selling, so your songs to a couple movies or to a Pepsi commercial. Hey, why not just go ahead and get it now? And have your money make more money and make sure that your family is good for the next million years, So
yeah, because they can still go play the songs. They can still charge people to play. Bruce sold his catalog, but he can still charge people to come and listen to him play them.
Yeah, of course. Hey, listen, if Sylvester Stallone could sell his watches, then he could sell the rights to their music.
Right, that's the whole point eventually,
It's funny you mentioned that, though, because I've always felt like you see Miley Cyrus, you see, I'll give you another one, Post Malone is doing kind of country music. And again, I've always said, and I don't know if you agree with me on this one, guys, but while Miley or a guy like Post Malone may not, sell more records, you can tour off rock and roll and that kind of stuff forever. And so I agree. I always feel like that's kind of a strategic move in a sense. I think some of these younger artists, when they move away from hip hop or they move away from, hip hop's, really seems to be sort of the big push, but when they move to more rock and roll or country, that I think, they're trying to add longevity to their careers.
Even Nelly will probably get paid, 20 years from now to appear at a Tim McGraw concert and sing that one song.
Yeah, I think he's dating, or he's one of the old hip hop girls. She's like around his age. I gotta look it up.
See, now just one more thing, like the money that Queen would get for every performance of that Broadway show, We Will Rock You, that still tours around the country and around the world. Now all that money goes to whoever bought the catalog. So they're making money off the Broadway show that's sold out in Australia. So there's all these different ways that these catalogs create money. So it's definitely worth it.
Note to self: contact Men Without Hats to see the rights of safety dance. Okay. All right, listen, guys. We talked a little bit earlier. We'll get married and celibate. So listen to this one. Ice-T thinks Lenny Kravitz is weird for staying celibate for 9 years. Quoting Ice-T on X: 9 years without sex? F that BS. Weirdo shit. Law and Order Special Victims Unit star wrote in a since deleted X post last Thursday. Ice-T, who's now 66 years old, doubled and tripled down on his stance after fans came out to Lenny Kravitz's defense and argued that the 60-year-old, Lenny is 60 now, the 60-year-old rock star's decision was his own journey. F that journey, LOL, the New Jack Hustler rapper replied. Lenny Kravitz told The Guardian that celibacy is, quote, a spiritual thing after being asked whether he was serious when he previously said he was waiting until he found the right woman. Quoting Lenny, I have become very set in my ways, in the way I live. He explained to the British newspaper in an interview published last Thursday. Kravitz pointed out that he has not been in a serious relationship in nearly a decade. The Hunger Games actor was previously married to the Cosby Show star Lisa Bonet from 1987 to 1993. Guys, thoughts on Lenny's celibacy journey and Ice-T's reaction to it? Go ahead.
I can speak to this. 100%.
Okay.
So can I.
I'm in Lenny's shoes. I actually probably went about 9 years.
Zoinks, Scoob.
Yeah, 9
years.
9 years is nothing.
Okay.
Eggplant-free diet. It was
wait.
not an issue.
Back the truck up. What? Eggplant? What? Say that again.
Hey, that's street talk. You know what it is. That's how we talk in the streets, crew.
I've never heard it put that way before. All right, sorry. Continue.
I've seen an eggplant emoji.
Yeah.
Oh, is that what that is?
It's an eggplant emoji.
So what the hell is this?
Leave it to the iPhone to try to do something wholesome, and everybody turns it into some kind of sexually deviant thing. So all right, but here's the thing, Sheila. We'll talk about that, your circumstances, but Lenny's saying he's consciously, Lenny could probably have any woman he wants within reason. He's gone 9 years, and I guess Ice-T's goofing on it. So,
I think that Ice-T needs to learn what sacrifice maybe means sometimes. Maybe he's a little out of touch. Sometimes going without something for a while just makes it that much better. Lenny is getting, sure, he's a rock star. He's lived it. He's probably immune to it. Nothing probably excites him anymore. So maybe he's just taking some things out of, the equation so that he can appreciate them later. What's so wrong with that?
Nothing wrong with it. Good insight. Gru, what do you think?
Mm-hmm.
No, I agree. I think Ice-T is probably goofing on him, like going public with it.
See, that's what I think.
That's what I think.
If I can interject, I understand Sheila's point, but if you're going to go on an interview with The Guardian or go on Twitter or X and state that you're on this celibacy journey, then you're opening yourself up for being goofed on. Yeah. And so I'm not saying Ice-T is right, but I mean, if Lenny's going to put it out there that he's on a celibacy journey, and people are going to goof on him, and he's going to have to understand that. That's what I think.
You're absolutely right. I agree with you, and I think it was nothing more than that, which is fine. It's harmless. Who's hurt?
Yeah, you know
Nobody.
what? I kind of take that back about Ice-T. He just has a passion. For
he's got that
doing the
wife.
dirty.
Yeah, what is that wife? Coco.
Coco.
Yeah, of course.
White
girl with the thickest ass in North America.
I can attest to that. I've seen it up close and personal.
Go ahead. You've met Coco?
I did. I was at my boss was presenting Snoop Dogg with the VH1 Hip Hop Honors Award, and we were backstage, and I met not only Snoop Dogg but Ice-T and Coco were there, and met them both. And I can say that I was focused on Coco, and you are correct.
Yeah, I actually back in the day was a little bit of a fan of Ice-T. I loved his stuff. Well, no. But New Jack Hustler, like that song, New Jack Hustler, is a great hip hop song, old school, and he was really good in the movie New Jack Hustler. He was really good.
He's a good actor. He actually is a good actor.
I think New Jack Hustler, for my generation, was probably one of the first sort of hip hop movies, almost a full black cast, and I watched it. I was super loved the movie. Wesley Snipes,
New Jack City, I think. Is that
New Jack City? I'm sorry. Yeah. Chris Rock,
Mario Van Peebles.
Yeah. Good stuff. Yeah. All right, guys, you will love this. Costco's beloved $1.50 hot dog combo will remain available at that dirt cheap price, at least for now. Costco's new chief financial officer confirmed this Thursday. CFO Gary Millerchip. That sounds like a DJ name. Gary Millerchip coming at you.
Sounds like the guy from Caddyshack. Hey, Millerchip, shine my shoes.
There you go. He confirmed that the $1.50 hot dog price is safe. The $1.50 hot dog soda combo's price has remained unchanged at Costco since 1985. In a 2018 interview, then CEO Craig Jelinek recalled a conversation in which the retired CEO Jim Sinegal threatened to kill him if he changed the hot dog combo price. Quote, "If you raise the effing hot dog, I will kill you. Figure it out," Sinegal told him. So anyway, Millerchip's comments suggest that the price will remain unchanged for the time being. Guys, this article actually warms my heart and my belly. I have definitely gone with Pops Moody to Costco and taken advantage, and Gary, of the $1.50 deal. Guys and girls, Costco is keeping the deal at $1.50. Any thoughts?
Ooh.
That's one way to fight inflation. Just say, lower your prices or I'll kill you. And it worked here. Seems to have, right?
I know. I mean, I don't know. There is sort of this weird fascination with Costco, the hot dog combo and like their pizza. It's like very cheap, and it's I don't know. It's very tasty.
But they're able to do it. They're able to do it because they're not making money on their food. They're making money on the shit everybody is buying.
Agreed.
They can afford because they probably buy it wholesale, which is like 25 cents a hot dog. So they're still making a profit. It's they're not making money on the food. They're the food is there. Like you're going to go to Costco, and for every one of you, like you and your and Mitch and Gary, if you just go in there, like my dad does that. He loves but he will then go and say, let me see if I can pick anything up. Most people are going to do that, and that's why they can afford to keep them at those prices.
Yep, for sure. I think that's part of the marketing strategy for the longevity of their customers, the retention. I mean, they have to deal with memberships, right? People keeping their memberships, and the only way you're really going to keep the membership is if a member knows that they can get their hot dog and their box of oatmeal bars, at the same time for the same price every single time. So I think that's a smart move on Costco's part. It also
Costco, Sheila, if they raised their price, would have gotten a lot of negative publicity in the press, right? I mean, like you see with McDonald's and all these they're getting just killed in the mainstream press over the prices of all their value meal. Everything has just gone sky high.
See, right now, right after this conversation, after this podcast, I want to go to Costco and get a hot dog.
Me too.
Okay, and in order to do so, I have to pay $25 or whatever the membership price is now. It's probably more. It was $25 20 years ago. I don't know what it is now, but I would have to be a member. And you know what? An idiot like me would do that. And there are a lot more like me than there are like the smart people out there. So it's brilliant. It's brilliant. And everybody should follow that business model. You'll get more customers.
I always remember Jack Hassenbein, Mitch and Craig's dad, because he owned the flea market and he owned a stationery store next door. And he would talk about, like newspapers, for example. He's like, I don't make any money off the newspaper, but I hope somebody comes in and buys a lottery ticket and, 2 candy bars. They call, I think, loss leaders. Businesses call them loss leaders. Like, they're going to lose money, but they're going to hope that somebody comes in and buys other products, so the balance sheet works in favor.
That's how those newsstands stay in, where we'd sit there and read the wrestling magazines waiting for a train. And we're going to buy, a pack of gum or something on the way out. That's just in our nature. So,
that's what Pops Moody. That's what Pops Moody does. He goes to Barnes & Noble, he gets like a coffee and a slice of cake, and he reads 15 gun magazines, for free.
And The Great Gatsby from cover to cover.
Always a sucker for a Barnes & Noble gift card. That's like my father, like Father's Day.
To know.
Barnes & Noble, his birthday, Barnes & Noble, whatever.
Good to know, good to know. Not that I'm on his good side already.
Yeah, no, you're on his good side, believe me. I mean, last night we went to Cold Beer and Cheeseburger. My dad was like, Sheila, whatever you want, feel free, order. And I was like, Dad, I like to order. He's like, go fuck yourself. Whatever. He's like, Sheila, do you want a piece? You want a piece of salmon? She's like, Mitch, we're at Cold Beer and Cheeseburger. We only sell hamburgers. Oh, okay. Well, Oh
that was like us at that restaurant. Mitch was like. He was like offering me half his cheeseburger because I was only having like soup.
Exactly.
And then you were like, Dad, you have never once in my 50 years offered me any little speck of what was on your plate.
Nah, he's good. My dad's. I'm only goofing. Generous guy.
Oh, we love Mitch.
All right, last thing is, guys, a University of Pennsylvania study found that taking omega-3 supplements can reduce aggressive behavior. Omega-3 supplements typically come in the form of fish oil pills. The study, published in the Journal of Aggression and Violent Behavior, which, by the way, was written by Andrew Gruthius, found that 3,918 participants, they took the omega-3 supplement, was associated with an average of a 22% reduction in aggressive behavior. Quoting somebody from this article, I think the time has come to implement omega-3 supplementation to reduce aggression, irrespective of whether the setting is in the community. whether that's in the clinic or the criminal justice system. Can we see a day, guys, where inmates and violent folks get their daily dose of omega-3?
Well, I would hate to see what I'd be like without omega-3, because I take that shit every day. I take 2,400 milligrams of fish oil twice a day, morning and evening. So,
do you find a 22% reduction in your violent behavior?
I don't consider myself a violent person, but I would say I have a somewhat aggressive nature to me in some ways. When I get passionate about something, you know me better. What would you say? You wouldn't consider me a passive person, would you?
No, violent, no, not at all.
But I can get aggressive if you know. So, but I wonder what I'd be like if I didn't take that stuff every day. I'm not buying it.
Here's one thing I will.
I take it for heart. I take it because it's supposed to be good for your heart. That's
yeah. And like I never took vitamins, and then I met Marie, and Marie takes like 1,000 vitamins a day, like a big vitamin proponent. So now I take a whole bunch of vitamins. But I don't know. Just thought it was cute. Sheila, any thoughts on omega-3 fish oil?
Well, I mean, I know that the algae market is definitely starting to come up because it provides like the best source of omega-3. That's number one. What I would want to know really is, was there like a placebo client or patient testing as well, where they thought that they were taking omega-3s and, they measured their aggression too? Did they do brain scans on it? Because I really want to know. I'm very interested because single women tend to be single because they're aggressive. So I probably would want to try it out.
Are you admitting to an aggressive side?
I think she is.
Unfortunately, yes. Hey, but you know what? At least I know it.
Oh, that's true.
Okay. At least
I
know it. I can admit it.
And it probably helped her.
Yeah, I can admit it. And, if I'm aggressive at the wrong times, I'll say I'm wrong. But, I'm very interested in understanding what this is about. I'm probably even going to do a little more research on it. So see if there's any truth to it.
The only time I get aggressive is sometimes I get really just fed up driving. I hit traffic, but I'm not the kind of guy. I would never do like road rage or anything like that. But I'll curse in the car and stuff like that. But no, here's the thing. I started taking vitamins when I met Marie, and I've taken vitamins on an empty stomach, and I've gotten really sick. There's my knowledge of vitamins.
Yeah.
And
One more thing, though.
I think we have a jar of algae somewhere in this house.
I'm sorry, probably. I left that behind. I left it in the bathroom there.
One more thing, though. I really want to understand why they think that inmates would need their chance, quote unquote, to start omega-3 regimen supplement for their aggression, because are people medicated? Yeah. And you can buy fish oil and stuff, vitamins and fish oil and stuff on the store if you want to. But I just want to know where the stereotype of inmates just being aggressive, period, is coming from. Because the truth is that, violent crimes and stuff like that is a small percentage of what, people are actually in there for, to be honest. Well, and the only time, and we'll get into that, but to be honest, the only time anybody really is ever aggressive in there is when it's hot. I'm just kidding. But it's not like everybody's just resting bitch face all day long in there. So I want to know where that came from, that statement, and why they felt that was even appropriate.
Well, I don't have that. I mean, I find an article that I think is kind of funny or interesting to somewhat talk about, and then I do edit it because I'm not going to take a full article. We'd be here for 6 hours if I read the whole deal. So in all fairness, they might have quoted a doctor or quoted somebody. The way I edited it, I didn't have it, though. I just thought it was interesting. However, I think this is going to dovetail well. So today's Nothing Worthwhile podcast, About That Life with Sheila G, is brought to you by New You Life Center. Be the new you, whether it's virtual RF micro needling. I had that one time. It was very...
Love it.
Yeah. Oh.
Did I have
okay.
that?
You want to tell it? No. You want to tell everybody about virtual RF microneedling, Sheila?
Long story short,
yeah,
your face is like a baby's bottom at the end of the day.
All right. Well, that sounds great to me. Hormone balancing, laser treatments, medical aesthetics, cosmetic injectables, and medical weight loss programs. New You is where it's at. See what they're all about. Check them out on Instagram, New You Life Center, social media. Give them a call at 602-274-0068 and tell them you want something worthwhile and you heard about them from Nothing Worthwhile. New You Life Center, Phoenix, Premier, Met Spa. All right.
Awesome.
All right.
You know.
So
that was fantastic.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, Maria, she's in Michigan, and I spoke to her today, and she was like, I am a paid advertiser on your podcast. I'm like, I've not seen a check.
Yeah.
Hey, if Queen could get $1 billion, why can't we get a couple of bucks for promoting you on the show? Anyway, I do say they have some very interesting and exciting things going on at New You Life Center. Hopefully we could talk about at the end of the month and blah, 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 blah. All right. So we have Sheila here on the show, and Sheila, a special guest, and you want to just tell everybody perhaps the impetus for why you're on the show?
So Evan and we would have conversations here and there, family barbecues. We'd, be in the corner giggling and laughing about stuff and talking about, things that have happened in my life. He actually took a genuine interest in wanting to get to know me, especially as his new sister. And, some stories would come across about my old ways, my old life and who I used to be. And Evan ended up finding it fairly interesting. It wasn't shocking to me that he did, because the population, everybody nowadays is very curious about, true crime. Number one, very curious about people who are incarcerated. Orange is the New Black was, a pretty big deal. A lot of people watched it.
I did.
Yeah. Even like Innocent or Guilty, all of those cool shows that talk about the criminal justice system or prison. I mean, we've all watched. I mean, I'm even interested and I lived it. So Evan thought it'd be a good idea for me to come on so that you guys can get some insight, some insider knowledge even about how the woman population is ran in there. It's quite different from what is known with the males. So just providing some insight and then sharing my backstory on how I got there and who I am today. I think it'd be interesting.
So let me, Gru, I was thinking about this. Sheila talks about, true crime podcasts. There's such an interest, reality shows based on incarceration. So I was trying to think about this. I don't know if you agree with me. Is the interest for somebody like us, or let's say folks who've never tangled with the law, is it because you grow up and you're taught to be such a rule follower, and there is something enticing, dare I even say exciting, about somebody or very interesting about those who've run afoul?
I think it's different for everybody. I can tell you what interests me about it in a simple analogy that I think works. To me, it's the same reason why people might be interested in space. It's something that they have never, nor will never experience. So the possibilities are endless, and it's like a sort of a thing that they can. It's something that they can't touch unless they look at it through these lenses. So I kind of look at it through the same. I don't ever plan on going to even visit a prison for any reason whatsoever, but it interests me because it's something that I know that I will never, God willing, will never experience. And I look at it the same way, not with the same kind of dread as I look at space, but the same interest, knowing I'm never going to space. So that's why I'm interested in movies and things about space. That's how I look at it. That's why my interest is piqued. I can't speak for others, though.
Yeah, I think for me it's because I've growing up, you're taught to be a rule follower. My mom was the kind, no nonsense. If I ever got in trouble at school, didn't even want to hear my side of the story, authority, follow authority. And so for me, watching it or speaking to those who've been involved, there is something exciting or intoxicating. Same thing how I loved, watching Breaking Bad. It's just something that I agree, in the sense that, never be involved, but I just find something kind of very, very interesting about it. Now, Sheila, would you share with us, like your actual stints of incarceration, like how long you were in and, like where? Can we start off there?
Yeah. So, basically, I've been incarcerated only in Arizona. That's number one. I've probably been arrested about 14 times.
Wow.
Been arrested about 14 times. I've been to actual prison. Now, there's a difference, right? Some people don't really know this, but there is jail and then there is prison. There is being detained and there's being convicted. Well, that has happened to me. Conviction 3 times. I sat in jail numerous months, 3 times before, and have gone to prison. The first time was for violation of probation. I almost don't count it because I was so young. I didn't even realize what probation was and what the consequences were if I violated. And I ended up doing a year, but in Arizona, it's 85%. You serve 85% of your time, and then the other 15%. You do on parole or probation. So that time, the first time was about 8-9 months. I did. The second time I ended up getting 4 years, and that was for attempted sales of narcotics and dangerous drugs, and was in there for 3, maybe 3.5-ish. And then this last stint, was for the same charges, attempted sales of narcotics, trafficking stolen property, and I think they added on one more, maybe like misuse of transportation or something like that. Anyway, ended up doing getting 10 years for it. Got 10 years, 5 years probation, served 8.5, still on probation.
Could I ask you, what is the difference between jail versus prison?
Sure. So, like in jail, basically what happens is you get arrested, right? They decide to detain you and put you in jail to basically press these charges. You're there awaiting indictment. So a grand jury at that point is assembled to see if whether or not these charges are valid, if like they're worth prosecuting, if there's enough evidence to prosecute. It's all in the prosecution's favor at that point. Like that's what they're working towards, the grand jury. And then 9 out of 10 times, usually it is. So you're sitting there throughout that process. And then you are also sitting there throughout the process of the court hearings to get you eventually sentenced. That's, of course, if you have no bail. You can actually get out on bail if one is set to then go to these court hearings thereafter. But usually you're stuck in there during the indictment process until that happens. Yeah. So unless there's a bond set, which you're pretty lucky if a bond is set the first night you're actually in jail, like during intake. So that can happen as well.
A bond is that a cash payment that could get you out released until your court date? Yeah. So depending on the charges, you can get a bond set like literally the night of if you see the judge then, or you can get a bond set maybe within the few weeks that you're actually in jail as well. It's all like you just don't know. You just don't know what's going to happen next while you're in jail, to be honest with you. But the moment you're sentenced, you're convicted and you're actually sentenced, then you are transferred to a completely different facility called prison or the penitentiary where you actually serve your time in peace without any more like court hearings or anything like that. And when I say in peace, I mean like away from all of the chaos of not knowing what's going to happen next. You've accepted your charges, you've accepted how much time you're given, and you're just there to do it at that point. Mm-hmm. Interesting. Mm-hmm. All right, let's open up. If you want to talk about like your childhood, growing up, where you grew up, and perhaps some of the early circumstances that kind of led you awry.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, I mean, basically, I'm not going to get into, everything that's really happened in my life that led me to have a prison career. But at the end of the day, I was 14 years old when I actually started using drugs. It wasn't because I was walking down an alley one day and I saw some guy smoking crack and I'm like, hey, what you doing? Or I was at a party and was influenced by a cute boy. It wasn't really like that. The way I came into drugs was I was chunky. I was a chunky kid. I was freshman in high school, I believe. Freshman, 14. And I hung out with a really cute group of friends, believe it or not. They were all skinny, they were all cute, and I was the only chunky one.
I believe it.
And, yeah. And that always bothered me, And then also I was the youngest of 4 kids, and I am Korean, and in the Korean culture, being chunky and they would say fat was unacceptable. And then I had 2 older brothers that used to always tease me all the time. So that was always an insecurity for me, growing up. And there was this one girl. She was a friend of mine. She lived down the street. And she would come over to my house in the morning to get ready because I had all the cool stuff to get ready with. I always loved doing hair my whole life. And so I had all the curling irons and the blow dryers and all the products. So she'd want to come over to my house in the morning to get ready for school. And I was cool with that. Well, she told me, Sheila, can I smoke something in your room? And by that time, I was already exposed to like cigarettes. My dad was smoking in our apartment still at that time, and exposed to, drinking and everything too. And I said, yeah, sure, but does it smell? And she's like, no, it doesn't smell at all. I said, go ahead. So for a couple weeks, she was smoking that stuff in the corner of my room while she got ready, to go to school. And I never even acknowledged it. Didn't care. Didn't want to know what it was. I wasn't really about that life. I drank here and there, maybe smoked a black and mild. But other than that, I wasn't really into that stuff. Until.
Yeah.
One morning, she said, hey, Sheila, you know that this can help you lose weight. And I said, what? Hand it over. Give it to me. Show me how. What do I do? And within 3 months, I think I lost like 30 or 40 pounds. I was the talk of the town. These senior boys were breaking their necks over me. I didn't really know what to do myself because I never, had, that type of attention. But at the end of the day, I started doing drugs to just lose a little bit of weight. And that's how my whole journey started. And it just explodes from there.
When you had that first taste of the drug, were you like hooked? I mean, how does or it just built up over time? How did that?
So it's insane how that happened. So when I initially decided to make the choice to actually do the drug to lose the weight, it was so weird. A group of my friends, the cute girls that I hung out with, who I'm actually still in touch with till this day. Unfortunately, some of them are still battling addiction, but we all started dabbling into it. And it wasn't me. It wasn't because of me. It was because of my friend's brother who was it was crystal meth at the time. And we used to hang out with him a lot. The cool older brother, he ended up getting into crystal meth. So we ended up all just started like doing it together. We'd go to like house parties while all these other kids are like drinking and stuff because the kids are the parents are out of town, and we're stuck in the room literally smoking on a crystal meth bong, And so that's basically how it happened. It was kind of like, it was just something that was around that we all were interested in trying and doing and experimenting with. And that's how it happened. But for me, unfortunately, with my mindset, and I think that you could understand this, Evan, because Marie and my brother Michael, we kind of want to know, what can we do with this, right? And at 14 and 15 years old, I'm like, I want to know about this stuff.
So if I'm reading it to you correctly, are you talking about business opportunities?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And I wanted to know, like, how is it sold? What does it mean? What does a teener mean? What does an 8-ball mean? I want to understand all the ins and outs. And mind you, when you're on crystal meth, you're super hyper focused and definitely motivated on whatever it is you take interest on. And that's what happened to me at that point. You know, had fun with it maybe for a couple months, but then I wanted to know the ins and outs. And after hanging out with 3 OGs from Surprise selling crack on 16th Street in Van Buren for 3 months, and then initiated with a tattoo, I became a dope slinger.
That's how I got involved with Temple. I'm sorry. Ironically enough, that's how I got addicted to Coca-Cola. Gru came over and he was like, listen, this drink gets you... Anyway, I'm joking. Gru, go ahead, buddy. Go. You don't need to raise your hand. Get right into
I
that.
just have a question because you mentioned, your incarcerations were for dealing, right? So my question is, and I'm guessing that Evan's probably going to cover this, but I'm interested in... were you was there a transition? Were you, the old adage is don't use your own product, in that, I'm interested in that part of the journey. I'm interested in the whole thing, but that's what's jumping in my mind now after you saying, because I didn't know you actually got addicted. I only knew about your charges. So now, I'm interested in the transition.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Yeah. 100%. So, I don't think that I was necessarily addicted as a teenager and then trying to learn how to sell it at that point. It wasn't an addiction. I think that at that point in my life, because I had gone through, some hardships as a child, I almost considered myself like the forgotten child because I was the youngest and my parents divorced at an early age. And I lived with my sister a majority of the time after the divorce, but she was 18, 19 at the time, had a child and was trying to raise all of us. So I was kind of the one that was passed around from relative to relative. Staying with my dad in California, moving to Guam with my mother, in and out of my life for a few years. Yeah, I said Guam. I was in Guam. And living with my, what we call emo in Korean. It's actually aunt. So my Sunja emo, living with her in Huntington Beach, living with my in-laws or my sister's in-laws for a little while, ex-in-laws, while my sister was living somewhere else. I was just passed around. And so I never really felt a sense of belonging. I never really felt like I was, part of any team. And I knew that in my mind I'm going to get a little teary-eyed. I knew I had...
Damn it, Gru.
I didn't. What did I do?
I'm only playing. I'm throwing a little comedy. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so sorry about that. So I knew that, I had a drive. I knew that I, was worth it. And where I became addicted was when it was no longer fun with my friends, but it was actually wanting to belong to this other type of lifestyle where I really was accepted. Where people did acknowledge me, where people did take interest in the fact that I had drive in wanting to do something or prove a point, and I felt a belonging there, and that's when the addiction to not only the lifestyle but to the drug started happening.
Can I respond to that real quick?
Of course.
So, not to trivialize this, but what Sheila just said is the garden variety addiction story. People need a place to belong. They have no. They spend all day looking at four walls, and they find a place. They find a thing that makes them not have to feel. And not have to feel that, and I'm here. I've heard this story and nobody focuses on that.
Well, I think listening to Sheila's background, and this was some of the first. Sheila and I have definitely spoken, but the first time I've heard to that extent. And so, what I was thinking was, this is also a textbook case of when you do stuff like it. in school, and we're educators, and you do stuff like child study, you look at high mobility rates, you look at kids who move around, who switch schools often, who switch homes, go from McKinney-Vento, homeless, moving from, different. These are factors that are placed against the individual, and it makes it very, very difficult for them to succeed. Not that they can't, but when every child study meeting I go into, you pull the kid's enrollment history and you look at, went to 3 schools in 9th grade, went to 4 middle school. This is some of the, hearing her background, that's exactly what I was thinking, though. More, I've seen this a shit ton of times in education. Similar stories.
Mm-hmm. All children, all teenagers, adolescents, they may say, out loud that they don't want to listen to their parents, right? Or that their parents are stupid. They don't know what they're talking about. But at the end of the day, we all craved a little bit of guidance, right?
I agree.
And it was something that was necessary, that even if we were trying to fight it, it had to be implemented upon us. And that for me, it was craving guidance. And the only place that I ever really got guidance from were from gangsters and other people that really took an interest in me and wanted to see me almost prosper in selling dope and drugs. It was the weirdest thing. That's where I was getting my guidance from, and I was just accepting it because nobody else was pointing me in any other direction.
It's like a cult. It's like they prey on people who are needy and who need. So they bring them in and they exploit them for whatever they're worth.
100%.
2 questions. Looking back on your childhood, how do you conceptualize that now? How do you compartmentalize that now? Because a lot of us look back. I'm 53, but when I was younger, and I came from a quote unquote pretty good home, you blame your parents for this, you blame your parents for that. When you look back at your childhood now, do you how do you feel about it? Do you have feelings of anger about it, or how do you feel about it today?
Well, I definitely worked through that with programs that were available to me in prison and through therapy and different types of medications. But at the end of the day, like the way that I see it is that we were all young, all of us, our whole family. Yeah. My dad, my mom, everybody. My mom was a Korean, basically, immigrant. My mom only made it to the U.S. because my dad married her, and she didn't know a lick of English, and she didn't know what she was doing. Had 4 kids by the time she was 33, and my dad not really knowing what he was doing either. He was young, so at the end of the day, my family, the ultimate excuse I give them is that we tried.
Yeah.
They tried.
I think most people say. I always say everybody does the best that they can. Yeah. To go back to jail versus prison. All right, so you go to prison. Is the environment, because jail seems like, the way you're describing it, kind of a holding cell before things work out. So now you're found guilty or whatever the correct term is. You go to prison. How is the environment, jail versus prison? Is jail sort of easier, or is prison real hardcore? Now you're in with people that are like, it's kind of like legit badasses, for lack of a better word. I'm just curious, the culture of prison, jail versus prison, or is jail pretty tough too?
That's a great question, and I will tell you, jail is worse than prison. Wow. And anybody will tell you that. Anybody who's been to jail and been to prison, or ultimately has been to prison, has been to jail, they will tell you that jail is the most horrible place you ever want to be in your whole life during your incarceration, because they made it that way. I'm not going to go into like conspiracy theories or anything like that, but the fact is that county jail is not meant to be comfortable because it's a transitioning period. Okay? Now, the only choice that a person has in there is whether or not they're going to sign a plea, or they're going to take their 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 charges to trial. Okay, that's the only choices I had in there. Now I knew I was guilty. I knew that they had evidence on me. I wasn't going to take this to trial. And if you take it to trial, guess what? You're going to get the maximum. And you're going to get the maximum because, and if you're found guilty, because the state needs to get their money back. The county needs to get their money back for housing you for the most part. And then also just take it, all that added extra work. They actually put that in there. If you take it to trial and you get found guilty, you're going to get the max. Like you are open to getting the max. So it's almost in a way a scare tactic. I feel, but at the end of the day, outside of that, it's just a scary situation to be in. So a lot of us settle on a plea, and so
are you advised by somewhat advised by your?
Yeah, sure.
Even if it's I don't know. I mean,
yeah, sure.
What do they call
public defender?
Public defender.
But at the end of the like, jail is so horrible. You want to hurry up and get out of there and just start doing your time. I mean, the food is ridiculous. There's something that we eat called what is it called? Grub.
I had that at Andy's house last in April.
It's something else. Either way, it looks like porridge mixed with a little bit of soy meat and anything else.
May I have some
That's what
more?
I give Braxton and Jet. It's
it's so bad. It's so bad. And you know, you're starving in there, but at the same time you're fat because you're living off of Commissary, which is nothing but junk food. You're craving sunlight. I remember I didn't see sunlight for 7 months. 7 months I did not see sunlight while I was in there. And you're just stuck in this little tiny building with a whole bunch of, it's like a human warehouse where like bunk beds are stocked on top of each other. I remember I was in one that was 3 bunk beds high.
Get out of here.
Yeah, 3 bunk beds high. All the way up to the ceiling. So just imagine being in one place all the time with 100 men or women around you, not being able to have any private time, having to, eat this nasty shit that they serve you every day, hoping to God that somebody's going to send you money so that you can at least get some cheese to make it taste better. And then knowing that there is something on the other side where you can actually focus on bettering yourself and not have to worry about this crap anymore.
So I want to move on to some of the points that you talking points that you sent us, but is the key though to get your, I don't know if this is the right term, your mind right, but is there has to be a mental acceptance, like here, this is where I'm going to be. And you're talking about all these factors that stink, and do you have to somehow get that kind of together and to survive mentally and even physically, but really get your mental game sort of somewhere where you just got to shut this piece off, or is it just it's a process?
It's not a process at all. Actually, it's the most easiest thing in the world, because when you can't have something because it's taken from you and you're not going to get it back, it's not really that big of a deal. I mean, I was a smoker when I was going to jail all these times, and I didn't have access to any cigarettes. The moment that I got arrested,
see, Andy, I told you.
Yeah.
Joking.
That's just a perfect example.
There's a myth debunked right there. Because that's all you
see. What do you mean?
I thought prison was basically the only place you can smoke now.
So prison is, jail isn't.
Oh, jail. All right. Okay. Good point.
Yeah.
Good point.
And so for those 7 months.
So in prison, could you purchase cigarettes through Commissary?
Yeah, and only a few states allow that now. And the reason why Arizona is one of them is because a lot of our prisons here are like kind of outside-based prisons. They're not just like this big old giant building enclosed with you, and you can't see anything, from the outside. Arizona prisons happen to be outside prisons where your cell door is unlocked and you walk outside, and there's just a perimeter fence. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I guess my question would be to you: did you like it better that way, at least in terms of getting fresh air, I guess, or seeing sunlight, or is we know Arizona could be oppressive with the heat? How'd you feel about that? Was it good and bad? Mostly good?
Yeah, good and bad, because again, we were able to smoke cigarettes, number one. If it was an inside facility like anywhere else, like a lot of these other states, they don't allow smoking. So, but they used to, right? Back in like the 70s or like the 80s. And then eventually it got to a point to where smoking was unacceptable inside, actual establishments. And so that's when prisons actually started cutting that off. But Arizona didn't really have to consider that, and because they're outside prisons. So what happened was they decided to keep smoking. Why do you think? Because taking away nicotine, they were going to have to deal with the whole
probably kept everybody a little happier, a little easier to manage.
Other situation. Until this day, you're allowed to smoke in that prison, but there is definitely good and bad to it because, again, like you had mentioned, in the heat, our cells weren't air conditioned. We actually had swamp coolers. So it didn't really make much difference after the temp hit like 100 degrees, right? So it was really hard. It was definitely really hard living in an outside prison with all the dirt, the dust, the spiders, the scorpions, stuff like that.
That's why we let the kids smoke in class, to keep them calm.
It's funny you mention that, because when I was a beginning teacher back in the mid-'90s, the break room for teachers had a door and a specific outside smoking area. This was probably 94, 95. And then a year or two later, as Sheila said, as laws changed and whatnot, they got rid of, smoking. Now, I was never a smoker. But, you mentioned swamp coolers. I once went with your sister to, like, somebody's house in Arizona. They had a swamp cooler. And the party was so uncomfortable. And I was like, I'm going to get a swamp cooler, save money on the AC bill. She's like, you better fucking not. I'll never talk to you again.
Yeah, no, it was pretty bad. But like I said, at the end of the day, the transition from being inside all day in a cold, a human warehouse or being inside, and then going to an Arizona prison, it was definitely much better. All you're trying to do is, at that point, when you're guilty and you don't stand a chance, you're just trying to get the best plea offered to you so that you can go and start your time. That's what everybody says. Like, people celebrate in there when they're calling the train to go to prison, because it's time to get the hell out of that dungeon for the most part. So it was definitely a celebration once you got there.
All right, let's get to some of the good stuff now. Talk to us about male officer, female inmate interaction. What can you tell us about that? Any weird stuff going down? What do you got for us here?
I love how that's your first question.
Yeah, great segue.
Well, that was your talking points. Male officer, female inmate interaction. I took it right from your email.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that was definitely very interesting. And I will tell you, first let me tell you not about my experiences, but what I've witnessed. Oh my goodness gracious.
I'm touching myself.
So let's start off with like the term Dicktick.
Dicktick?
What would you assume?
I trademarked that. Wait a second.
I knew it. You're so smart. He's always thinking ahead. He's like Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, always thinking ahead.
So
Dicktick. I think I just downloaded that app.
Yeah, I was just going to say that exact thing.
I think how many steps or how many? I don't. Anyway,
all right. Yeah.
I don't.
Right. Let's hear what it actually is.
Yeah. Go ahead, Sheila. The floor is yours.
So the term Dicktick is basically, a female inmate that is so thirsty, just so thirsty, that they make it 100% obvious that they are flirting, hitting, or having a crush on, a male officer. And in Arizona, women in prison have to stay in something called compliance. Okay, that was a big deal in there. Compliance is shirt tucked in, okay, hair up in a ponytail at all times with your ID on top of everything else. Like, your cell has to be in order, blah, 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 blah. Like, that's just something that has to happen. Your bed has to be made. It's ran like the military.
I'm assuming, though, the compliance piece is to, what's the word I'm looking for? Limit sexuality, limit appearance, limit temptation,
to control behavior.
Sure. Yeah,
Okay.
for sure. Definitely.
Thank you, Andrew.
Yeah, definitely appearance in a women's prison. It's so insane because women have more compliance restrictions in a female prison than actually men do in a male prison. Yeah, male inmates can walk around with their shirts off all day long. But guess what? If I'm caught wearing my sports bra without a shirt on in my cell, I could end up getting a ticket for that. I can get a violation for that. Are there a lot of men that work in a female prison? What's Mostly. The breakdown? Really? Yeah, about 85%.
Okay, that's good to know. 85%. Okay, and so women have to be in compliance. And all right, the floor is yours. What did have you seen male officers break their code of employment, or I don't know, whatever that is?
Is there a code of employment?
Absolutely. The reason why I wanted to basically break down, you guys have to understand that there's a context to everything in prison. You guys are never going to, the normal population that's never been there really needs to know these type of details in order to really understand where I'm going. So like, I agree. With compliance, having to have your hair pulled back in a ponytail at all times means if you don't, you're doing it for a reason.
Okay.
Dickticks would wear their hair down, get all fixed up, curl their hair, wear it down, put on full makeup, wear the tightest extra small t-shirts and the tightest extra small orange sweatshorts whenever they knew that their officer was coming onto shift. You could literally see these women get ready before shift change because they know that their male officer is coming, okay? Showtime's about to begin. So once their male officer is there and is posted up in their box, which is what we call, that's basically where the officers just gather. They do their journaling there. They can charge their walkie-talkies there, receive phone calls, push buttons, access control, whatever. That's what the box is. All day long for their entire some of these male officers, they break. They do. They break. And it's so funny that it's as easy as bringing in a woman a pair of tweezers that they will exchange flashing their boobs. Or bringing in some gum. One of these dickticks will masturbate in order just to get some gum. And it's insane, or just to get attention, period. So, like, when it's count time, everybody's locked down in their cells. Let's talk about the cell environment. So you can't really see anybody, but the male officer is going from one door to the other, to the other, to the other, doing head count. So Dicktick knows that this officer is coming to do her head count. And at that moment, she will expose herself. She will be masturbating. She will show her boobs. She will do whatever because she knows that either she's going to get more attention from this male officer or she's going to get what she wants, which is the most ridiculous things. Like I said, chewing gum, tweezers, chapstick. It doesn't matter. Anything to make our life easier in there, they're going to do and get so that, at the end of the day, we can just feel normal again, I guess. But yeah, no. So that was very entertaining. I would stand at my door, and I would see one of the male officers going to that woman's door and standing there longer than normal while he's doing head count. And I'm just there giggling and laughing because I know she is doing something raunchy and nasty to entertain him. So that's just like surface level stuff for sure.
What about beneath the surface?
Yeah, I also want to ask one quick question.
I know that's what he's thinking.
I wanted to ask about makeup. Is makeup allowed, or do you guys have like your little homespun remedies to create makeup out of other objects? I'm just curious about makeup. I'm assuming it's not allowed. Is it? Yeah, no.
Makeup is actually allowed in Arizona prisons. I can't speak for other prisons, but makeup is allowed. Yeah, we have the bare minimum, and they're all natural colors. But I couldn't believe it either. We can buy lipstick, we can buy eyeshadow, we can buy mascara.
You gotta look.
just
I
little
mean,
items.
the Dicktick's got to look good. I mean,
Right. Right, and I think that the reason why that ended up happening was because the Arizona prisons actually started opening themselves up to like third-party companies, where third-party companies can actually come in and partner up with the prisons to make a profit off of inmate labor. And I'm not saying it in a bad way. I'm saying that actually in a good way. So, like for instance, Televerde is one of the companies that partnered up with ADC to try to get these women into like marketing professionals, telemarketers. Everybody hates to be on the phones. Nobody in their right mind wants to sit there for 8 hours a day. But guess what? A female inmate would.
Right.
Right. And so Televerde was smart enough to partner up with ADC to do that. But with that being said, you're putting these inmates in a professional environment where outsiders are coming in. And we were actually required, and because I was part of Televerde, we were actually required to wear our brightest oranges, is what they called it. Our brightest oranges, and our sneakers had to be white at all times, because they're bringing in, outside professionals that potentially may hire Televerde to market for them. So we're dealing with VPs, CEOs, CMOs coming in, and we got to look our best. So I think that's where the makeup portion became acceptable and buying on store, because we had to look after our appearance.
Are you saying that?
All right.
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, Gru.
Well,
go ahead, Gru.
Are you saying that if I get a phone call from like a spam number and I pick it up, I could be talking to, it could be an inmate from a prison?
Yeah. I think that they even
Gru's
handle
gonna be like,
Amazon.
hello, spam call?
Yeah,
What is it?
pen pal.
You're staying at Miami Correctional? I'll be over in 20 minutes. Thank you.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Wow.
Are you a Dicktick?
That's it.
I'm coming over right now.
Come on. I would give it a few minutes before going there, but
And yeah, so let's go there. I mean, you're telling us about surface level stuff, a flashing of boobs, this, that, and the other thing. Was there
Investigations happened all the time. There was always an officer under investigation for alleged sexual acts with a female inmate.
How do you get away with that? I mean, with cameras, are there like a back alley somewhere? How does that go down?
Yeah, there are ways. There are ways, 100%. Whether there's another officer having the other officer's back, taking the inmate to go get toilet paper out in the other building outside of the gates. Whether it be even just knowing when their release date is, to be honest with you, and meeting up with them right then and there, right thereafter. Whether it could even be an officer who handles the medical. Now, there was an investigation one time where the medical officer was being accused of taking his porters to the back and having sexual acts with them. I ended up finding out that one of the officers who was accused of doing that got fired.
Would it be the inmates who would turn them in? Like, would they do it for leverage? Is like?
So it would be other inmates for sure who would be turning them in, because it's cutthroat in there. The way to get what you want in prison is to basically be a snitch in a women's prison for sure. I mean, if I'm unhappy with my cellmate and I don't want to live in that room anymore, all I have to do is find we call them grapes. Find some grapes, go up to the office, talk to one of the officers, be like, hey, I got some information, but if you want it, you got to move me out of my cell.
What is a grape? What do you mean by grapes? And they would oblige.
Like, grapes are juicy rumors, juicy events.
I got to write that down.
Yeah, that are happening. We would ask, what's the grapes? What's going on? Tell me the grapes. Spill the tea, kind of, in a way. Same.
Would prison staff be open to that? Hey, I got something that you need. I want to be moved out. Would they?
Actually, they promoted it.
Yeah, that's weird. I don't know how I feel about that. That's I guess there's always a political motivation for that. However, I don't know if you want a culture overall of people just looking to bring other people down. But again, I don't know.
Well, that's how I ended up on closed custody for 3 months. I had gotten away with maybe about 10 or 12 assaults before I ended up getting snitched on by one of, I couldn't believe it. As soon as I walked out of the room after beating this girl's ass, and I saw her sitting there smoking a cigarette, watching me come out of that room, I knew I was going down. Because this lady was infamous for snitching to get what she wanted. She ran store like crazy. We're going to talk about 2-for-1s a little bit later, but she got away with everything under the sun because of the information that she provided to the officers. And like I said, when I saw her and we locked eyes after I walked out of the room, I knew I was going down. A few hours later, I was getting called to the main office, being accused of assaulting somebody.
Well, I do want to move on to the next talking point. However, I do want to ask, I mean, let's just be honest, jail, prison, it's tough. I mean, do you have to be tough? Do you have to earn respect? Do you have to fight someone? I mean, do you have to be good with your hands in order to make sure nobody messes with you? I mean, do you have to send a statement to know that you're not to be one to be effed with?
So, I mean, in a male's prison, of course, that's for sure. But in a female's prison, it's a little different. The politics in there are a little different. There really isn't any. It's kind of non-existent. You can choose to be a tough guy if you want to, so that you can have that type of respect if you wanted it, because that culture is in there where it's like, gang related or like, what's the word? Hardcore people still that are living that life. But at the end of the day, there are only 2 races in a women's prison, and that's clean and dirty.
What are you referring to from clean and dirty? In a sexual sense?
No, in a hygiene sense. There'd be fights all day long going off with two cellmates. That one is extremely dirty, coming from the streets, bringing in like old cigarette butts and trying to re-roll them in the cell. And then there'd be the clean one where they want, their room in compliance, and they want, no dust on their shelves or whatever. And because you almost become OCD in there, for sure. Everything has its place. You only have a certain amount of space, and you naturally kind of become OCD. So there's definitely women in there that are extremely clean, and then there are ones that are dirty, and there would always be fights in between the two, for sure. That was always a thing. Mm-hmm.
See, Groove, fold your laundry.
Yeah, I mean, shut up.
Sheila, what is alert?
That is so funny. So, alert is an acronym, right? That's the term, acronym.
Yes. Acronym.
Yes. When something's So, alert is LURD, and that stands for lesbian until release date.
Oh yes.
Can I take a gander as to
a lot
what
of that
means?
goes on in there.
Crew, take a gander, please.
I'm going to say that's like, okay, the only sex I'm going to get is same sex, so I guess I'm a lesbian while I am in prison, just like if you're in a male prison, you're going to do things that might go against what you normally would on the outside. So I'm guessing that's what that means, exactly what it says.
Crew,
I have a
funny
story for that.
Were you a GERD? Gay until release date?
No, thank God. I was never put in that situation.
Hey, but I'm telling you, if you were, you would take it. You would take it.
I think I could do the 9 years. I could do the 9 years.
No, that's not true.
I'll kill myself. I'll kill myself.
Put money on it.
I'll kill myself. I won't last. I can't. No. No.
I will put money on it that you guys would end up getting your at least little thing sucked while you're in there. And you want to know why? You want to know why I have the funniest story?
Yeah, I want to know why.
Can we be Dickticks for female guards?
Listen, that too. But to be honest with you, that's a little different. That's a hustle. That's part of work in a men's prison. You're assigned to actually do those kind of things. Ooh. But that's another story. So, but there was this big old giant Chicano Mexican mafia, guy that I was hanging out with in Tucson. We partnered up and we were selling drugs together and stuff. And his name was Petey, but he was 6'3", big old Santa Maria tattooed on his cheek, just completely tatted down. Man's man, and just ginormous heterosexual Chicano. Okay, and we're driving one day,
and now his name is Helen.
We were driving one day, probably to go and drop something off, I'm sure, and he's looking at me. And my nickname has been China for a very long time, so if I refer myself to that, that's what I'm saying. So he looks at me and he says, China, there's something I need to get off my chest. And I'm like, what? What's going on, Petey? And he's like, there's just something I need to tell you, and I respect your opinion, and I really just want you to tell me, what you think about this. And I said, okay, let me hear it. You know that I did 15 years or something like that. And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, I need to admit something, and I need to know if it's okay. And I said, what? Spit it out, Petey. I got my dick sucked in there a couple of times, and by a man. And what do you think about that? And I was like, is that all? He's like, yeah, I kind of had needs, and every once in a while I'd pay homeboy, suck my dick. And I was like,
where are you going? Oh,
I was like,
get Braxton a kiss.
He's like, what does that mean? And I'm like, I don't know. Do you have those feelings now? Now that you're out, do you want to get your, pee-pee sucked by a boy or what? And he's like, no, not at all. I just need to know, how do you feel about that? I was like, it's fine. It's fine. You were stuck in a place for so long, and men have needs, and yeah, sure, you got your wee-wee sucked by a man a couple of times, but at the very least, you're just victim of your circumstances, and you just got it done. Do you feel okay about it? Are you okay? And he's like, I don't know. I just got mixed feelings about it. I don't know if that makes me any less of a man. I said, absolutely not. I don't think that makes you any less of a man, for sure. And I'm telling you right now, Evan, Gru, you don't know until you're in a big old giant heterosexual man's shoes like that.
I don't want to know.
You have needs, and hey, sometimes men's mouths look pretty.
Braxton, what do you think about this?
Okay, next subject. Tell me about the 2 for 1. Tell me about the 2 for 1.
I love that I made you too uncomfortable, but I would.
Well, here's the thing. So if you went back to your topic of lurds,
yeah.
So is that again? I mean, do people?
It's the same thing. Women have needs too. Women have needs too. And
I've been saying that for years, and you've been.
So what happens there? I mean, in terms of if something goes down physically, do you have to have a lookout to make sure the two people or whatever scrum get to take care of their needs and nobody gets busted by a guard or something like that?
Yeah, for sure. Especially if it's their anniversary, you want to have a lookout so you can have a.
But it's not you who would get in trouble, though.
It's your anniversary.
Oh, wait a minute.
So many women's couples in prison. So many domestic issues and whereabouts where it's just insane.
So wait. I have a question. I have a serious question. So you're you're not allowed to do that. You're not allowed to mess around. To do that. So did you have your own cell, or did you have a roommate?
Yeah, so both. So if you're in a maximum, okay, so it goes level 1 to level 5. Level 5 being like maximum security. Okay, and then level 1 being minimum security, where you're not at risk of escaping or hurting people, right? So from maximum all the way down to medium, you're in a cell. There's no cubicles or open warehousing situation environment. But the moment that you get to minimum, you're in an open warehouse cubicle. So everything is public, everything is seen. It's really hard to get down in there, but, it can be done. But for the most part, from medium on up, if you are a lurd or if you're a lesbian and you have a girlfriend, you're doing anything that you possibly can to get moved in together.
Well, that's
and
my
I've
point.
Been in that situation.
But I figure, why would they care if inmates are playing around with each other?
They don't care as long as it's not it can't be out in the open. You're not like macking on each other while you're playing cards.
I mean. That's what I mean.
That's not happening. But there are so many couples in there just walking around, doing their thing, living their best domestic life ever, just having fun and trying to basically get through. That's what Alert is for the most part, just trying to make the best of a situation and trying to make it as familiar and as homey as possible. And if that means picking up a dyke
LLM. Lurds lives matter.
Aren't we all
Lurds lives matter.
Aren't we all just trying to make the best?
Aren't we all just
trying to make the best
of a shitty situation?
Let's make the T-shirt and bumper stickers now. Lurds lives matter. LLM. Let's do it.
Yeah, Lurds for nothing worthwhile or something.
How much money can we make on that?
I mean, let's do nothing worthwhile merch.
At least enough for a pack of gum instead of having.
Well, then, if we're sticking with the sordid sort of things here, what are you referring to, Sheila, when you talk about commissary whores and wannabe dykes?
Oh my God!
I sound very white. I sound very white when I ask that. Like,
it's so funny
wannabe dykes. Yeah.
That I wrote down that topic. It's almost like Alert, right? They're only.
I'm assuming
only gay for this day.
Yeah, I'm assuming commissary whores are women who are going to do stuff to get extra commissary?
From other women. From other women inmates. Basically. Yeah. So, like, the commissary whores are basically ones that go in with an ulterior motive to either be a person's friend who gets a lot of commissary, right? Or tries to get in and maybe be their little honey bunny. For the most part, just so that they can be supported while they're in prison and live off of somebody else's commissary. That really does happen a lot. And unfortunately, it can happen in like almost a good way, but then a bad way. So there'd be like a dyke who maybe is attractive, a tomboy that really is attractive, who is considered a commissary whore because she only goes for women that actually have money in prison. And she's dead broke.
Interesting how prison mirrors real life, isn't it? I mean, she's not describing anything that's not regularly practiced on the outside. I mean, if you want to screw, if you want to play around with somebody, you do it in public, you're going to get in trouble. You got to go in private. What's the difference? Funny. What's the difference?
Marie did ask me for my W-4 before. I first did it. So let me ask you about commissary. How do you earn money? Is that by people can put money into your account, and also if you work a job in prison? I know the pay rates are very minuscule, so to speak, but are those the main ways you can accrue money in your commissary account, through your family and friends, outside sources, and then if you work inside of prison, can that money go to your commissary account?
Yeah, believe it or not, did you know, fun fact, that family support outside of prison is actually like a $6.1 something billion like industry?
It doesn't surprise me.
Yeah. Unfortunately, families that really want their loved ones to be okay and in prison are forking out a lot of money to make sure that they're comfortable and that they're okay. And it's unfortunate because you really do have to spend, I mean, in order to be comfortable, to be considered comfortable in prison, you're spending $100 a week on commissary store. That's literally only going to last you a week. It's only going to last you a week.
Wow. That's a lot of dough, actually. That adds up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then there's going to be that extra for things called fundraisers, where we have the opportunity to buy from Costco. Since we talked about Costco earlier, where there'd be a Costco fundraiser once every maybe quarter, let's just say, where you can stock up on bulk shampoo or what's the word when it doesn't go bad? Non-perishables, and other things, and that right there, if you want to get everything off of that list, it would probably run you about $1,000, and that's because you're paying double, and the other half is going to the police officers fund or to the correctional officers fund, where they're having appreciation and doing barbecues with like T-bone steaks and stuff. So
God bless
you got to pay
America.
double. And I want to thank the families. I keep saying, let me stop that. But you want to thank the families that actually do support their loved ones in there, because
that sounds like that could be a lot of pressure financially on a family, because you're $100 a week. You're talking about $400 a month, and maybe even more. You extrapolate that over the course of a year. That's a lot of extra dough for a family.
Yeah, but that's to be extreme. That's to be comfortable. I mean, an inmate can live off of $20 a week if they spent it wisely. At the end of the day, for me, I actually was blessed enough to have my mom support me this last time around for those almost 9 years, where I was receiving no less than maybe $200 a month. But what that did for me was allowed me to not worry about if I was going to have a cup of coffee the next morning when I woke up, because I could buy my own coffee. It didn't worry me to have to hustle and do all of these side gigs. Like I actually learned how to tattoo in prison, to be honest with you. And this time around, I didn't have to put ink in anybody. Why? Because I was being supported, and I didn't have to put myself in a situation where I could get in trouble, right? Because tattooing is a violation. And I could focus on myself, and I could really grow and not have to worry about where I was going to get my next ramen noodle.
Well, first of all, Sheila's an amazing tattoo artist, number one. Number two, two questions about Commissary. Really, I'm assuming, do you order on a computer, like a kiosk or something? And then your range of items, like it could be as small as what would be the most sort of extensive item you could purchase Commissary? What would be like your high ticket? I'm just curious, what's the range of items in a typical prison commissary? What's like your smallest thing to like your largest thing, to give the listeners an idea?
Yeah, so I know you guys see on like 60 Days In and stuff, those kiosks or whatever. Arizona isn't really there yet. We still turn in something called a bubble sheet, where each item is assigned a code, and it's almost like an SAT test where you're bubbling every... Mm-hmm. Yeah, where you have to bubble everything in. And oh God, if you're dyslexic and you get 2 numbers wrong and you end up not getting your coffee for the week, your whole life is in shambles at that point. You didn't get your coffee, and you're like freaking out. So
this is kind of a joke, but so you can't go to customer service and say, made a wrong pick, can I return this and get this?
No, sometimes
customer service is in the 2 cells over.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. Sometimes people end up accidentally putting 20 instead of 2 of something, and end up with like 20 honey buns and depleted their whole account, and they're screwed. But so like the minimum, the lowest thing on the totem pole that is absolutely necessary to put on your store every freaking week is a toothbrush.
Okay.
10 cents. You're only allowed one. Quantity of 1, and if you end up bubbling that in, and you have to use your same toothbrush for 2 weeks straight, that is like the worst thing in the world, because they're literally this maybe about 2 inches wide, tall, whatever, and it's literally just the bristles with a tiny little like gripper, and that's it. And after a week, that thing is done. Why are you
showing Gru and
I
this? Because we're Jewish?
Now I'm uncomfortable. Let's get to the 2-for-1s.
They're this small. So I guess prison, not very high quality toothbrushes go out there.
No, not at all. As long as you get one once a week, you should definitely be okay. I remember one time somebody was able to come up on a whole bag of toothbrushes from the place called State Issue, where they hold like extra clothing and stuff like that, or give out little tiny hygiene bags to people who first come on. Like it's just a thing. And then you can go to State Issue every 90 days and just exchange some stuff. Anyway, somebody was able to sneak out like literally a whole bag of toothbrushes, and don't you know that I bought up that whole bag. I felt like I was the richest person in the world at that point. But toothbrushes are extremely important. Only 10 cents. That's probably the lowest of the totem pole. But the best thing that you can get on store, and this is just my opinion, of course, but you're rich if you're meat rich.
Hold
Okay.
on. This sounds very, very insightful. You're rich if you're meat rich?
Yes. If you're meat rich and
Do
soda rich.
tell.
So if you can afford buying protein, then you're considered rich. You know, I'll tell you,
It's the same
women
thing
they'll
out
buy
here. It's the same
So
thing in real life.
What does that mean? Does that mean can you get sliced turkey or like Slim Jim? What are you talking about protein wise?
So the proteins that we got in there were like bags of chicken. You know that the chunks of white chicken meat that you can get in a can, kind of like tuna style. Well, we can get in pouches.
Okay.
So that was, I mean, if you can get a few of those, you're top of the totem pole there. Also, there was something called chata meat. Chata meat was the best meat in there. It was $6 a pouch.
God, I'm so
and it was the shredded pork, the seasoned Mexican style shredded pork that you could probably make burritos out of. You could make, menudo out of. You can use that basically for anything. It was the most flavorful, most delicious meat ever. And you can actually probably get that at Food City. I've seen people take pictures on Instagram saying that they found it. So there's chata meat. There's also summer smoked sausage that you get like in the little roll. You know how you can get the summer sausage? I'm all using my hands. You can slice it up and put it on a charcuterie board. Well, we used to get little ones like that. That was top notch. Put that in your ramen noodle. And then last but not least, tuna. Just having a full supply of tuna on hand, man, it was just the most secure feeling in the world.
What is allowed in terms of cooking or preparing commissary in your cell? Are you allowed a little hot plate? Are you allowed kitchen utensils? I mean, I get a can of tuna. Do I have a can opener? Am I allowed to prep this and eat this on my free time?
That's a great question. You know, that is a great question. And the reason why it's a great question, because a lot of people don't know how we prepare our food if we don't have a microwave. Microwaves were only allowed on minimum custody units. And when you're on a medium custody unit, the only thing that you have to rely on is something called a stinger.
A who?
Do you remember a stinger? Do you remember the movie Shooter with Mark Wahlberg?
I never saw it. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, same.
I've heard of the movie. I've never seen it.
So he ends up getting injured in that movie and runs into a convenience store and tries to get whatever he could first aid wise so that he could basically, cater to him. What is it like? Just do first aid on him. Yeah, because I think he got shot or something like that. Well, one thing he grabbed was a stinger, and what that is like a metal rod attached to a plug that you can only stick in water. If you turn it on and it's outside of water, it'll burn out. So basically, it's like an electric rod that you stick into water and you plug in that heats up your water. Actually gets it to boil. So that's what he used to sterilize whatever he was using to clean himself up with. But that's what we use to basically cook. We would steam our burritos. We would boil water for instant rice. That's what we relied on. At one point, I remember having 5 stingers hooked up to an ice chest because we could get the styrofoam ice chest. Ice was imperative in there. We actually had access to ice, but we had to buy bags of ice through our ice tickets that we purchased from Commissary. Anyway, so in my ice chest, I have 5 stingers hooked up, and the trash bag is wrapped in a ton of garbage bags to prevent leakage and try to keep sanitary. And I'm boiling up a whole pot of menudo. And I'm using corn nuts, I'm using chata meat, and I'm using pork rinds for flavor. And believe it or not, with corn nuts, if you boil them long enough, they actually turn into hominy. And it's delicious. So that's the way that we cooked in there. We used stingers, but on a minimum custody yard, the luxury of actually having a microwave was the greatest thing in the world. And I remember I could make egg rolls in there, nice and crispy. Believe it or not, you know how like you're not supposed to stick aluminum foil in a microwave?
Yes.
Well, you can. And I figured it out. We all figured it out. we had chip bags that were kind of aluminum foil. We didn't have access to aluminum foil, but these chip bags were foil.
Right.
Okay. So what I would do is I would actually mayonnaise the inside of this empty chip bag, kind of grease it up, right? Because there's oil in mayonnaise. We had to think outside of the box. Like, what can we use to ensure nothing sticks to this bag? Mayonnaise has oil in it. Okay, maybe that'll work. So we would put mayonnaise into the plastic bag, line it up, or the chip bag, and then I'd have my burritos or my egg rolls ready to go. They're already wrapped. Let's not talk about what's in them, but either way, you'd stuff them into the chip bag one by one to ensure that both sides are touching the top and bottom of the potato chip bag, almost like a Hot Pocket. You know how a Hot Pocket has, So then after that, you wrap it up, and then you get newspaper, and you wrap about 4 or 5 different layers of newspaper, kind of like you're wrapping a gift around this potato chip foiled bag. What that does is it keeps the sparks contained while you're microwaving that thing for 10 minutes straight. So you pop it into the microwave for 10 minutes.
Sounds like gets it nice, extra crispy, huh?
Yeah, and when you bring it out and you take off the newspaper and you peel apart that potato chip bag, you have crispy-ass chimichangas, and they're the most delicious thing in the world.
So it sounds like really you have to have a level of ingenuity. And it's like MacGyver.
Yeah, I was just going to say you have to be MacGyver in this thing.
Yeah, so many different recipes.
I want to cook this steak quickly. Newspaper, paperclip.
It's like you used to give, when you used to have us build a boat. You'd say you have a roll of toilet paper, 2 twigs, and this, and make it float.
Uh-huh.
Listen, they're given their circumstances and they're trying to make the best of it.
Is that interesting? Do you guys find that interesting? On how we could cook in there?
I do. I mean, I've seen a lot of different prison documentaries. They make wine. I mean, it's incredible what the folks can do to get, I guess, the simple pleasures of life. I mean, it's what you need to do. Last thing before we move on, what is 2-for-1ing and running store?
Yeah, so 2-for-1ing, actually, people become addicted to 2-for-1ing, believe it or not. Not the people that are actually running store, but the people that are getting items.
I think I'm addicted to 2-for-1ing. I don't even know what it is, and I feel like I'm addicted to 2-for-1ing.
Man, a lot of women would go into
I hear what it is.
A lot of women went into debt. It's almost like a bank, right? So you have this person that has a ton of items from store, a ton. And so what she does with that is that she 2-for-1s these items so that she can double up and double up and double up, right? That's our money in there. Commissary is money. It's our form of money.
Okay, so hold on. So when you say double up, she's ordering more to almost have an inventory, or is this I'm giving you and I'm adding tax, and is that kind of how I'm assuming that goes down?
That's exactly how it goes down. People can be a store runner starting off with 1 honey bun and being disciplined enough to hold on to that 1 honey bun until somebody wants to 2-for-1 it and wait a whole week to get 2 back.
Okay.
So you're selling 1 honey bun for the price of 2. You're getting 2 back a week later.
This is exactly what vending machines are. This is exactly what vending machines are. They're buying this stuff wholesale, and then they're putting it in the machine, and everybody who wants one has to pay 3 times what they paid for it. It's the same exact thing, isn't it?
Yep, and it's a running business in there. I'll tell you that much. And like I said, people become addicted to 2-for-1ing or end up getting stuck having a 2-for-1 their whole tenure there because they've ran up such a debt where they are 2-for-1ing not only just a honey bun, but they're 2-for-1ing everything for a whole meal because they're hungry. And then half of their store is literally going to the person that runs it because they 2-for-1 so much just to survive that when they finally get their store, it's just a vicious cycle. And so that's one of the ways people make money in there is running store and 2-for-1ing, and it's unfortunate sometimes because you're kicking somebody when they're down. But at the end of the day, if you're wanting to make money and you're a money maker, you're probably going to end up running a store just because it's part of your mentality and the hustle in you, right?
Don't you remember, Evan? We used to do that at the end of every summer on Skid Row. We'd have the market, and everyone would pay $5 for a can of Coke, $10 for the Madonna Playboy. Come on, you remember those days?
I'm a bit ashamed. Let me ask you a question. So if I'm disciplined and I'm collecting commissary and I want to make some extra dough, is staff going to go through? I mean, can I keep an extensive inventory in my cell, or does staff go through it and go, dude, why do you have 16 honey buns lined up on a shelf? I mean, does anyone, or are you allowed to, you have it stashed, put away where no one could see it? Is it like out of sight, out of mind kind of thing?
So a lot of people will have like their cellmates put some stuff on their part of the shelf, or they'll have maybe like a runner who holds some of the stuff. Yes, if they know that you're running store and they want to raid you, they're going to ask you to pull out your receipts. And to be honest with you, for the most part, you're going to have those receipts if you've been shopping consistently for a whole year. You're going to have everything on that menu, on that everything that's on that shelf reflected on a receipt. And but there's no policy about throwing away anything that's actually expired. Believe it or not.
See, it's just like my mom always said, hold on to your receipts, Gru.
Damn right, always.
So in there, I know I left with a stack of receipts that looked like a encyclopedia by the time I was done. I actually still have them. I was hoping maybe I can do something like with taxes on that, but it didn't work out.
No?
No. But you guys want to know how I made money in there.
How'd you make money?
It's pretty interesting how I made money in there. So, my store, because I was able to spend maybe $300 a month. All of that went to supplies for me. So what I did is I bought everything that I needed to make these fantastic cheesecakes. I made the best. You can ask anyone in there if Sheena made the best cheesecakes, and they will tell you hands down. I have these cute little personalized circular cheesecakes that were made out of powdered milk, creamer, prepackaged cream cheese, like the ones you can get at the hotels. And the top, among other things, my crust was uncomparable to anybody else's. It was still crispy. It was delicious. It was crunchy. It was sweet. I made those out of Nilla wafers and other things, secret ingredients. But then my toppings... I am
so hungry right now. Oh, God, that sounds wonderful.
My toppings were out of this world. I had a raspberry swirl topping. I had pretzel peanut butter chocolate topping. I had almond and cappuccino or whatever, and they were just so fancy and so pretty. No. And they were just the cutest things in the world, and I used to make 150 every weekend.
Wow.
And there'd be people lined up around the corner waiting to get their cheesecake. Some were already reserved.
Some were like,
it was ridiculous. And guess what? So if I had 150 cheesecakes and I sold them for $2 a piece, and that's $300 right there. I made
is that $300 in cash?
$300 in commissary. By the time I was done selling, them, my bed was full of store.
I do want to say too that my crust is incomparable too.
I can vouch for that.
Funny. I had to brag about that because my cheesecake, their legacy for sure. People were begging for my recipe before I left, but I never gave it up ever.
All right. Let's take a pause right there with Sheila's incredible cheese. You're going to have to make us a cheesecake one time, Sheila. I mean, I'm coming over for cheesecakes.
For powdered milk cheesecake.
Yeah, you're like I would definitely eat that. You're like the nothing bundt cakes of
prison
of Arizona prison. Unbelievable. But you do see though, there's economy and there's a need, and if somebody's willing to fill it, they can get paid. Mm-hmm. It's pretty incredible.
Absolutely.
All right, we're going to stop right there, and we're going to talk about, we will do a part 2 with Sheila. We'll talk about that in a second. So, Sheila, one thing we do as we begin to close it out is we have a segment called One Thing We Are Watching This Week. Andrew, do you have anything you want to recommend to our lovely viewers?
Yes. speaking about prison, this week I'm actually watching
God.
something that I saw many years ago, but in honoring the legacy, the life and death of the late great O.J. Simpson. I've been watching. It's called American Crime Story: The People versus O.J. Simpson. It's like a 10-episode like dramatization of from killing to sentence. I'm from killing to acquittal, and it's excellent. John Travolta plays Robert Shapiro. Cuba Gooding Jr. plays O.J., and a host of others play the various people. David Schwimmer plays Robert Kardashian. Really good stuff. I think it's on Hulu. American Crime Story: The People versus O.J. Simpson.
See, if people actually listened, you've already promoted this on one thing you're watching this week.
I did?
You've already talked, yeah.
Are you sure?
You need to elevate your ginkgo biloba and fish oil for your memory.
Well, I apologize. Well, I'm still watching it because it's 10 episodes long, so it's been a while.
Yeah, last week he promoted a video game as what he was watching.
Well, that's I'm being honest. Sheila,
okay,
what are you watching this week? All right, enough.
Sheila, you have anything cool you've seen on television you want to recommend to our listeners?
Yeah, on Netflix, I'm watching Eric. It's called Eric. It has
How is that?
Oh my gosh, it's so good. What is that?
Benedict Cumberbatch.
Yeah,
I heard about
Doctor
that.
Strange.
Yeah,
Doctor Strange.
Looks very quirky. Looks good.
It is. It keeps you guessing. It keeps you wondering. You want to hurry up and get to the next episode because there's cliffhangers, and you're just completely confused. And everybody loves, what is it? Like true, like thrillers or serial killers or different things like that. And it just has all of that in a nutshell. And Doctor Strange, I don't know his name, but he does so good in it. Oh my gosh, he's such a great actor. And I've actually finished the series yesterday, and it was definitely satisfying. Very satisfying.
Good. Okay, Benedict Cumberbatch, Netflix. For me, Netflix, I was all over Netflix this week. I'll give you one for sure, and I'll give you a couple other ones. But I watched a movie called Monster, and it's an Indonesian thriller. It's about two young kids who get abducted. But there's almost no dialogue in the movie. So these two kids are going to school. They get abducted by this guy. One kid is locked. One kid escapes. One kid is in the monster's home, and the little kid bravely goes back to try to get her friend. It's called Monster. It's kind of like Quiet Place. Sort of creepy kind of vibe. Not much with dialogue. Really, really good. I'll tell you a couple other things I watched. Netflix is really starting to separate itself. We were texting this morning. Godzilla Minus Zero is on Netflix. The latest Toho version of Godzilla. Phenomenal. I'll give you two others. Ashley Madison documentary about the website.
Ooh.
I watched that.
Never been on it. And tremendous. Really love. They follow
I've always wondered about that.
That Christian vlogger family, and the guy was exposed, and the data dumps and why, and to this day they don't know who did it. They never found out who did it, and the company's still apparently up and running. And then I saw another one. Last thing, Upgrade, 2018, 2019 science fiction movie about a guy who he's in an accident, and he's paralyzed, quadriplegic, and they put a computer chip in his neck, and it's like a computer system, and I'll leave it there. So, Monster, Netflix, really, really good.
It sounds interesting.
I think I'm going to check it out.
Yeah.
All right, guys. For our next episode of Nothing Worthwhile, Gru and I will hang with Sheila for part 2 of our interview. We will learn more about prison recipes, politics in prison. Jodi Arias, notorious young lady. I'm looking forward to hearing about her. Contraband, snitches, kite riding, and fighting, getting out, keeping straight, and her inspiration to keep moving forward. That'll be our our next episode of Nothing Worthwhile. So I do want to thank Sheila for joining us today. Hope you had a good time.
Thank you. I did.
All right. All right, Gru, take us out of here.
Well, thank you, Sheila, for joining us. As Moody said, always great to see you and hear what you have to say. I've learned a lot.
So have I.
And
I've learned a lot.
I hope everybody else out there has. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being a part of our party today on Nothing Worthwhile, to the entire Nothing Worthwhile universe. Next week will be part 2 of our interview with the lovely and talented Sheila. And until then, folks, all I have to say is 1, 2, 3. Rip 'em.
Rip 'em.
Quack, quack.